What is up, T.O.Gs? Here on the outskirts of my hometown here. Just going along for a ride, shooting some video for the interwebs. And got some knowledge, some wisdom, or at least sharing with you some of the experience that I have. Hopefully to help some of you who are watching this video out. And that wisdom has to do with the selection of your first motorcycle and why I think choosing a cruiser is a good idea for a first motorcycle. Now, by all means, your skill level is all relative, right? People come out of their motorcycle safety course with a wide variety of a skill set, right? Some of you feel really confident coming out, and that's great because some of you want to ride like a sport bike or very large displacement engine motorcycle. And I'm not here to tell anybody not to do anything, but what I'm here to tell you is, depending on your skill set and depending on how comfortable you are, why I feel like a cruiser is the best choice for you. So let's start off with some really simple reasons why. And the first thing I want to talk about is ride height. The seat height on a cruiser, for the most part, is going to be easy for anyone of any height to touch the ground with both feet. And if you're somebody who's like 5'5" or above, you're likely going to be able to flat foot a cruiser. Some good examples are the Honda Shadow, the Yamaha Bolt, the Harley-Davidson Sportsters, the Yamaha, I don't think they make it anymore, but the Virago, if you find one used, the Honda Rebel. These are all great ideas for starter bikes. All of those bikes are going to have ride heights that are going to be very good for those people who at the very least, when they get on their bike, they want both feet to be touching the ground, and they want to be able to balance the bike with a lot of the times with both feet flat on the ground. And that's totally understandable. It's a really common thing for new riders, is they want to be able to be in a situation where they don't ever feel like they're going to start leaning over to one side or the other. They want to have both feet on the ground. So reason number one why a cruiser is a good bike to start out with. So reason number two is linear power. Now, when I say linear power, all of these bikes are going to make it so you're never going to feel like, as you're finding the friction zone and you're letting the clutch out, like the bike is really going to jerk you forward, because all of these bikes have linear power. These cruisers have power, and if you look at it on a scale or on a graph, that the power, it just goes slowly up, right? If you look at some of these leader bikes or sport bikes, you're going to get a lot of power right away, and it might feel jerky. It might make you feel uncomfortable, feeling all that power at once. Woo! So again, a cruiser is a good idea because the power on those bikes are linear. Now, the third reason why I think the cruiser is a great bike to start out on, and the reason why my first few bikes were all cruisers or standard bikes, is the riding position. Now, if you look at the difference, and I'll put it up here so you can look at it side by side, the difference between riding a sportier bike and a cruiser, it's very obvious. So if you take a look at these different riding positions, you'll see one, you're tucked up, hunched over a little bit. It's very aggressive, and great for an experienced rider, somebody who wants to really lean into some turns. And the difference between that and a cruiser is you're riding very upright. Your hands aren't resting so much on your hand controls here, and your feet are forward. And this is a very relaxed way to ride, and it's not going to ever, it depends on how aggressive you are as a rider, but if you're riding a cruiser, that urge to want to go fast, right, because you're not leaning forward, you're not lunging forward, you're not in this position where you feel like, yeah, I want to go fast. It's much less aggressive, and it's a good place to start. To me, riding a cruiser is just a good place to learn the principles of riding. So another thing that's nice about cruisers, and for the most part, some of the cruisers will have a little bit more complicated instrumentation, a little bit more complicated dash here, is it's very simple instrumentation up here in front. You're going to be looking at, probably at the most, you're going to be looking at speed and tachometer. So you're going to be looking at your RPM and speed. With a sport bike or a bike with like a TFT or an LED display here, you're going to have a lot more to look at, and it can be distracting. It really can. Coming from a person who used to ride a cruiser exclusively and just having 1 or 2 gauges up here and then going to this, I was wanting to look at this all the time, and that can be distracting. And so for that reason, you might want to consider a cruiser. There's less to look at, less to worry about as far as instrumentation goes. And in that way, less for you to get distracted on what's important, which is the road in front of you. And the last thing I wanted to talk about as far as cruisers go is maintenance. Cruisers are simple bikes. They're not going to have a lot of fairing to deal with. Most of the time they're going to be air-cooled, so you're not going to have to worry about coolant or the cooling system. And so maintenance is going to be fairly straightforward. Now this is going to vary depending on what kind of bike you have, but maintenance is going to be fairly straightforward on a cruiser. And really, in my experience, depending on the mechanic or the bike shop that you have nearby, or the dealer, it might cost you a little bit less. And this is going to vary, like I said. And for me, for somebody who grew up in an era where buying an American car was always cheaper than buying an import, because parts were always more expensive for imports. But really that's changed a lot, because a lot of parts doesn't matter whether you buy American or not, are imported parts anyway. But that's the last thing I wanted to talk about as far as making a cruiser your first motorcycle. I really think that the cruiser is an ideal bike to start out on. Like I said, your experience and your skill level, your confidence level coming out of your safety course is going to vary. You might feel like you're ready to jump on something much more aggressive, something much more sporty, something with a lot different power delivery than a cruiser, and that's fine. But for those of you who are really looking for a bike that you can learn the basics on, that you can feel comfortable on, that's not going to get you into trouble, and I think you know what I mean when I say get you into trouble, I would highly recommend a cruiser. I will put in the description some links to some cruisers that I would recommend. Some of them I've ridden, some of them I haven't, but I've watched enough video and I know enough about these bikes to be able to recommend them to you. So make sure you check those out. That's all I've got for you today. If you like this video, make sure you hit that thumbs up down there, which is the like button. And if you haven't already, smash that subscribe button. Guys, if you're out there riding, please be safe. Be kind to one another. My name is Eric. I'm that one guy, and I am out.